we'll say thank you for coming on and early. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting piece. So I am recording this on Zoom, and everybody has the link to get onto this class via Zoom. And I'm also running it through live on Facebook. So I'm going to make that quiet. And yet, okay, so this is going to you'll see me reference my phone some throughout this, and it's mainly because if you are on Facebook Live and you make a comment, I'll address that. Now, I will say that what I'm noticing is Facebook Live has a slight delay. So I may not, so just be aware of that there is a slight delay, or appears to be a slight delay from what I am looking at. So, all right. And yet, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I have my intent is always to start on time and end on time. If I can end earlier, that's even better. And yet always starting on time, because I want to make sure that I respect you and your time today. So, and today is all about working smarter, not harder. And how can we use efficiencies and effectiveness to get more done in less time, right? How cool would that be? And so there's a couple of you guys. So Brenda, hey, and Charlotte, thanks so much for the comment about my hair. I just changed it. Hey, Brandon. Hey, Stacy. Hey, Julie, Jade. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. Now, there are a couple of times that you're going to have the opportunity. Mine would be for you to have the opportunity to actually engage throughout this webinar, right? So if there's questions, if you have some life hacks that make your world better in order to get more things done at the same, more things done, please, please, please feel free to make a comment in the chat room, unmute yourself, have a conversation. Now, housekeeping items. We are going to go ahead and get started. Olivia Roberts, MAPS Mastery Coach. And if you're on here, probably because you know me already, and yet that's who I am. And later I'll share a bit about how some of these hacks actually helped myself and my business. We are going to look at some myths around organization and how they can actually be a barrier, because we think about it in ways that may not be the most helpful. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and dive in. And again, if you have comments, feel free to place those in the chat box or unmute yourself. Would love to hear back from you. I always start off every course, every class asking this question. Write down, what is the thing, the information, what would make you walking away with knowing that at the end of today, our time together today, you would say, that brought me value, right? Because we're going to share a lot of tips, and we're going to share some mindset things. And yet, if we go in here with intentionality, you will have something that you can, in turn, actually put in place today. Because that's my intention. We know that if we have a new idea, a new way of doing things, and we act on it within 24 hours, it's more likely that that's going to actually be something that we do, versus coming to a class, taking notes, putting it on the bookshelf, and having the world's smartest bookshelf, and nothing actually changes. So, so again, we've heard the expression to work smarter and not harder, and yet so often we fall back into the way that we've always done things. So the simple truth is the most successful people in the world understand the importance of maximizing their efficiency without spending extra time on work, right? We want to maximize the efficiency without spending extra time on work. Now, there's some couple questions when we look at getting organized. So the first are the nuts and bolts question, right? So you've probably asked these questions. How do I take control of my task? How do I manage my hectic schedule? how do I get more done in less time? Like, that is so frustrating sometimes, right? We can be very fascinated with it. How to set up an effective system. How do I use technology to enhance my productivity, right? Because how many times, sometimes we get a new CRM or a new technology and we're like, wait, this is supposed to help. Why is it that it's actually slowing me down? And then I'm going to pause real quick because I'm getting some weird message. So Ramon, he is actually my cyberbacker, and he's on here. So Ramon, I'm getting a message that says you've logged in from another device. Your polling session is inactive. So I'm just going to let you do whatever you need to do to make that either work, or let me know that that won't work. So. All right, so today we're going to look at a few how-to sources of information. I'm going to share some materials, some books that I've read that has helped with this, and then we'll keep moving. Now, the second question is, how can I conduct my daily life to achieve maximum productivity that moves me closer to my long-term goals? Now, that answer partly involves practicing and changing habits. Right, so that's where we want to always start, is we want to identify our habits. We'll look at why you may feel out of control and myths contributing to that perception. So, and we're going to look at different ways to think about time, paper, email, and people so that potential productivity can be translated into a duplicatable system. At Keller Williams, right, we are a company of systems and models. People have gone before us. Let's learn from them. Now, let's do a quick check-in and see if you can relate to this, okay? So Agent A, that might be you, bright, talented agent, and doing lots of business. It's 9 a.m. Agent A is furiously searching through all the debris on their desk for the information that they had promised to get to the client by 9:15. Meanwhile, their admin is hovering, anxiously trying to explain why the paperwork to the title company isn't complete. The listing paperwork, which must be in the system today in order to get paid, is only half done because the time set aside to do that has that just completely evaporated in a stream of phone calls, meetings, emergencies. Lead generation didn't occur yesterday. Doesn't look good for today. As usual, Agent A is going to have to stay late or do this work at home instead of spending time with their loved ones. In short, just another day in real estate. I can't see most of you, and yet some of you may be raising your hand, right? Agent A's story is a story of waste, the squandering of time, money, and talent. Agent A symbolizes a costly bleeding of resources. The disorder is lost productivity dollars. So I'm going to give you guys an example. And a coaching client of mine, we looked at how much her intent is to make this year and what each contact is worth. And what we actually discovered is that for every contact, even if it's not a yes, even if it's not just making the contact, $91 a contact. So every day, whenever she loses productivity of lead generation, and let's say that that's 2 hours due to inefficiencies, which prevents that 10 contacts a day, that means that Agent A is losing $91 per contact. If the goal is 10 contacts a day, that is almost $1,000 a day. And for ease of math, we're going to say $1,000 a day is what you're losing for inefficiencies. That means in a week, that agent has the potential to lose $5,000 due to inefficiencies, right? This is why what we're talking about today is so very important, because we tend to think, well, I'm being busy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and yet we're just bleeding money because we're not being efficient and effective. So the personal face of disorder, right, it's all too familiar with all of it, with us, because either you've suffered from it yourself or you've borne the brunt of the disorder from other colleagues, other associates, right? Now, the symptoms are clear. An edgy feeling that there's not enough time to do everything that needs to be done, right? Multiplying stacks of paper and email, constant interruptions, seemingly incompetent staff, and a lack of confidence. So let's not be like Agent A, right? Let's learn what I'm sharing today and implement it, because education without implementation is simply entertainment. You guys know that. Right. So let's look at some of the myths and how we can gain control of our organization. So number one we want to start with is order means neat desks. That is a myth. It means aligned stacks of paper. It means nothing on our desk. That is completely a myth. Disorganization indicates weakness or a lack of moral fiber. Yeah. To be sloppy and organized is to be creative. Myth. Some of the most creative people in the world are not disorganized. Organization requires an inflexible regimen. No, you're going to put some discipline in it so that you have freedom. Organization is bureaucratic. It's related to nitpicking and unworthy of people who are capable of thinking more grandly. Myth. This is a huge myth. Your admin should be able to organize you. No. Your computer or your database management system, that should be able to organize you. No. Now, those are some of the common myth understandings. So let's talk about the truth, okay? None of those were true, and they get in the way of genuine organization. So let's look at the things that are actually true. Neatness and organization don't necessarily go together. That's actually a matter of style, okay? Whether you're good or a bad person, not in question. So leave the guilt over disorganization at the door. Now, another truth is organization will actually liberate. It does not constrict. Intensely creative people and innovative business executives, think John Welch at General Electric, think Gary Keller, right? They actually reveal a strict personal discipline far beyond that of even an average organized person. That organization has liberated them. Personal organization is a key trait of many successful people. Now, this is when we talk about your admin. Your admin is potentially your key organizing aid, only you still have to define the needs and set the priorities that organizing requires. And your computer, your CRM, your customer relation management, any other technologies, they can enhance your productivity if you harness that, right? Otherwise, they can just make things more chaotic. Sometimes we need less of those things. And organizing is quite simply, it's a learned skill. If you're taking notes, write that down. It's not natural, right? You're gonna have to go from entrepreneurial to purposeful. It is a learned set of skills, just like walking, just like being able to lead generate, just like learning anything. It is a learned set of skills, and it's systems and tools which help you arrange your time and workload to meet your goal, right? Organization is not, that is a step to get you what it is that you desire to have. Now, I'm gonna pause right here because I didn't do like a PowerPoint for this course. And so you may have questions, you may not have heard something, or you might have had an insight or an aha. So I'm gonna look at those folks that are playing along on Facebook, and I'm gonna ask you guys that are on my Zoom, go in either to, I'm gonna find the chat box. So either unmute yourself or go into the chat box. What are you hearing so far? If you don't say anything, I'm going to feel like I'm just talking to myself. Yeah, Andy, I'm actually okay. Absolutely. Who else?
It's Donna.
Hey, Donna.
Hi. So it just really sounds, a lot of what you're saying, it sounds like me. So it's, still learning, always learning, but the organizational part, I never thought of it as a learned skill. I always thought of it as like, you're either organized or not. So that was interesting because I didn't think of it as a learned skill. And before real estate, way early in my career, I was an executive admin. And I really thought of myself as I needed to organize that person. So for you to say that it's really not my job, they're the aid, that's really like a shift in the way I thought about think about that part of it, right?
Yeah, very cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it is. It's the cool part is, and again, I'm a huge, the minute you can afford, we're going to play red light, green light, the minute you can afford to hire an admin, yes, right? Whether that's bits and pieces, that's a virtual assistant, whatever that is. And yet you actually, the minute you can, and yet if you're like a crazy person in the sense of, right, you don't know where your stuff is and you don't have any way to say, hey, this is what I want it to look like. Okay, now go do it. You got it. You're definitely, and some of us have probably experienced this where you hire somebody to help you and then you spend so much time helping them help you that your productivity tanks. So you want to be very, like, that's a whole nother webinar on how to make sure we do that correctly. Now, show of hands, who's actually had an opportunity I did a video yesterday or day before yesterday, and it was pretty long, so I'm not, expecting that everybody actually even watched it, but it actually asks you to rate yourself on your organization. If you did that, go ahead and write in what number you got in the chat box or on Facebook. And while you guys are doing that, yeah, so Brenda, I love that. Being organized is a style. No. Oh, I love this. No. Neatness is a style. Organization is a learned skill, right? And yet neatness is a style. So for instance, and I'll use myself, I always tell on myself in these things. I don't know if that's good or not. I'm organized. I can find a piece of paper. You ask me about something that you emailed me 3 years ago. I can find it. I've got it. And I'm also that person that has 15 tabs open on my computer because it's fine for me. If you look at my screen on my Facebook, it annoys the crap out of people because I don't put them in the boxes and I've got all these. Well, because to me, organization is, why do I care what box it is? I'm going to pull it down, I'm going to type it in, and boom, it's there. So everybody's going to have different hacks or different things that help them get organized. Ultimately, you want to be asking yourself, is this the most efficient and most effective way of getting this piece done? So my intent at this point was to have have you guys do a poll so that you could actually rank your organization. And it looks like my polling is not going to work. Nope, it went away. So what I'll do, or what I'll have Ramon do is he's going to post that video and into the comment section. Copy and save it. It's not something that you're going to do right now, but we just want to look at how organized are you or not, right? That's going to help you know how can we, okay, actually, thank you, Ramon. He said the poll is okay. So let's do, I'm popping up the polling. Okay, so everybody should see poll 1, organizing audit part 1. Go through there and just check yes or no. And as you're checking it, before you hit that, let's see, should somebody come off mute and tell me if you can see that poll?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, TJ. Now, before you hit submit on that poll, I do want to make sure that you're that you count it up. And there goes those of you on Facebook. You might have just felt a big bang. When you're adding that up, so before you hit submit, these questions 1 through 7, you're going to give yourself 1 point for each no. 1 point for each no.
Ramon, will you resend that poll? Because whenever I unmuted myself, it came off my screen.
Sure, let me do that.
I don't know if
Thank you.
On the bottom of the screen, if you click polling, you can pull it back up.
Ooh, look at you. Love that. Thank you.
I'm on my iPad, so.
Is
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Got it. Yeah, I got it.
Oh, then that actually may have been me. I may have hit the launch poll, which maybe closed it.
Olivia, what if you don't have staff or
What if you don't have what?
staff or secretary?
Could anybody, like, let's say you were sick and you were going to say, hey, hubby or, you know, daughter, go in there and grab XYZ. Could
Okay.
they?
Okay.
And this poll actually came from The Organized Executive. It's a book by Stephanie Winston. Not something I created, and yet it's a really good tell-all. Okay. Now I'm going to see if there's any, does not appear to be any questions on Facebook. So let me know, does everybody have those? Can we move to the next piece? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to click pull on poll 2, organizing audit part 2. Now go through and answer these questions. And now on this one, instructions are a little bit different. You're going to give yourself 1 point for each yes, 1 point for each yes. And if someone will just give me a kind of a thumbs up or a make a comment in the chat box whenever you have finished that so that we can move to the next piece. All right, and then Ramon, if you'll kind of keep an eye on the polling and let me know when like the majority of people have finished, then we'll go ahead and move to next.
All right, noted on that.
Thank you. Brenda, do you have to sign into Zoom to answer the questions? If you're going to answer them on the poll, yes. And the biggest piece, though, it's more about if you know the answer than if I do. It's really was just a quicker way than me having to, you know, read these out loud to you. Okay, we've got 6 out of 9 already answered. I'm gonna give it just another like 10 seconds and then we're gonna move to next. Okay, 7. Okay. All right, so we're gonna wrap that piece up and I am, let's see. Now, did that go away now? I just want to make sure that that's not in your purview now. Okay. So while somebody either unmute yourself and tell me what your number is, or maybe even what surprises you about as you started, you know, going through those questions.
Mine was 5, but I'm also admin and everything right now for myself. So
Yeah.
But
yeah. You said -5?
no, it is 5. Like I had 5 yeses.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Mine's
There is no
6 and I do
-5.
have an admin.
Yeah. It's interesting. It starts with us, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I realized, so I recently bought a new planner because I felt like my other one like wasn't big enough for like writing things down. And I'm looking at it, like I'm literally carrying over a to-do list from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday, and like bits and pieces of it. And oh, it's so frustrating. And I know like it's me, like I'm just like procrastinating because like it's like admin type of work or like just small things like pooling like just like surface level comps. Like it'll literally take me like probably tops 3 minutes to do, and yet I'm still putting it off. It's just like little things like that that I don't know. It's so terrible.
Well, and this is, it's right. It's awareness. That's what it is. And so we're gonna share some things today that's gonna help you with that. And if I don't get to it, remind me, and I'll kind of on the side the 2-minute task rule. We'll get to there. So that's perfect. Okay?
Okay.
Anybody else, whether it's in the chat box or unmute yourself and share.
7.
Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, 7.
7. Yeah. 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 It's interesting because we don't think about that is part of our inefficiencies, is that the organization piece. So it's for some of us, what we're going to realize is that Gary's got that great question. The one thing, or what's the one thing I can do that makes everything else easier or unnecessary? For some of us, it's this piece, right? It's learning the skill of organization. It's not going to come overnight. We're not going to be perfect at it. It is an ongoing process. It's not about perfectionism. That actually is a challenge. It's just about, are we moving forward? So there's a Japanese believe, and this is a quote from the Organized Executive book, that frequent crisis represents a failure in business management. And if frequent crisis is a chief diagnostic clue to disorganization, then the ability to limit crisis and cope with it when it occurs with relative lack of disruption marks an organized system, right? So that's one of the ways that we can look at, is our system organized? So now I'm going to share with you, what do those numbers, when you add it up, could they give you a bit of an insight? So let me share this with you. So if you scored 1 to 5, you've got some good organization. Like you may have been beating yourself up, but you've got some good organization. Now the tips today can enhance your efficiency and productivity. Now, if you scored 6 to 8, you probably find the current disorder annoying and the confusion causes difficulty. Okay. Now, and I'm sorry, that should be 1 to 3. You're pretty well organized. 4 to 6, you find the current disorder annoying and the confusion causes difficulty. Now, let's say that 6 to 10, you may feel distinctly hampered in your work, right? Disorder is often debilitating, right? So this is some things that probably, definitely move forward on. And if you scored over an 11, you're talking full-fledged reorganization is what you need, right? You are seriously disorganized. Now, I don't want you to look at that and say, oh, I'm a bad person, or I can't. No, you go, oh, wow, I didn't realize that this, right? Then now we've maybe just shined the light on a blind spot and went, oh, okay, this will help me get to next. What? Like, it's this simple. Oh, that's cool, right? Because if you scored over 11, your ability to function significantly impaired, right? Getting organized will transform your life, right? And, right, again, that question, what's the one thing I can do that makes everything else easier or unnecessary? That's where we are. So that just, again, I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what those numbers mean and how you can use what we're going to share with you today, okay? Now, I also want to share this with you. It is important to note that control organization, or whatever you want to call it, that does not necessarily mean calm, right? Different businesses have different beats. We all have different personalities, and what that calm or what that organized looks like to us. Think about the frenzy of the floor of the stock exchange. That to us is going to be appear extremely chaotic, right? To an untrained eye, and yet it is a highly controlled operation. So just know that, be aware that sometimes we have this myth that things are going to be just like this. Well, guess what? Real life happens. Stuff occurs. We just want to be able to ebb and flow with that, right? And then, of course, we said this a little bit earlier, being organized, it is not an end in itself. It is a vehicle to take you from where you are to where you desire to be, okay? Now, so we have some basics set. We're going to move forward, and we're going to look at some systems and tools, and we're going to actually put them in your hand that's going to empower you to achieve your goals. Now, we can't, in this today's session, you're not going to walk away with everything that you need in order to move forward, and yet you're going to have some great first pieces, right? So the first piece that I would actually like for us to consider or to look at is what the life hacks are, the fun stuff, right? And that's probably why many of you came on today, because you're like, well, she's going to teach me how to make this easier, right? So you're going to be able to implement some of this immediately into your business. Some of it is going to be some mindset stuff. Some of it is going to be actual smart hacks, right? Number one, and many of you probably aren't going to know that this is where I would start this. Write down, if you're taking notes, write down self-care. We don't realize how important that is to our productivity and our organization. Write down self-care. You've got to give yourself enough time to recharge your batteries, or you will burn out, right? You consider self-care, recharging your batteries, as mandatory as a meeting. It's as mandatory. If I'm your MAPS coach, it's as mandatory as meeting with me. It is as mandatory as going on that $1 million listing appointment, right? This will prevent you from feeling overwhelmed by work or life in general, and ensures that you can perform at your best. Now, for many of you, you know that in the last year, I've really taken on running. There's a book called Relentless Progress, and it's all about running. And it's so funny how running and real estate in our world just mesh so beautifully. And this is what, and I want you to really consider this. We are not running a sprint, and that's what so often we act like it, right? When you're sprinting, and if you want to think about it, at some point in your life, you've ran before, you've sprinted, right? Even if it was just to your refrigerator, just to the mailbox. And when you sprint, you can only do that for a sustained period of time. I don't care how fast you are, you can only do it for a specific amount of time, right? Then you got to recover. I want you to consider that we're not operating a sprint. We are running a marathon. And, you think, and it was a marathon even before COVID and everything else. And yet now it's not even a marathon. Hell, we are running an ultra marathon, right? Way farther than an actual marathon. So we must act accordingly. Okay. So what if, for whatever reason, you fail to provide yourself with adequate recovery? You might end up burnt out. So you want to be able to recognize burnout and take steps to minimize that. Recovery is hugely necessary when you're exercising, when you're running. Like, nobody would ever go, to the gym and work out with weights every single day with just their arms. They're going to take a day off. They're going to work their legs. They're going to do cardio. Right? It's the same thing in your business. So recovery is necessary. So think of recovery as this. Recovery is pre-planned, anticipatory of training. Okay, this is what my year looks like. This is what my week looks like. This is what my day looks like. So I'm going to pre-plan some recovery to make certain, some self-care to make certain that I can perform at my peak performance. Now, on the flip side of that, burnout is the reactionary counterpart. I didn't self-care. I didn't take care of myself. So now I burn out, right? So if you're going through a time period and you start to feel worn out for more than a couple of days in a row, you want to check yourself. You want to look at this and go, okay, what can I do differently? You might want to take it easy for a week. Now, taking it easy for a week doesn't say, like, I don't want anybody to be like, well, Olivia said, I'm a little tired. I don't have to lead generate for a week. Now, maybe don't use that as an excuse either, but there's being very smart about it, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean completely shutting it down or stopping. What you might do is take it easy. That might involve slashing. So your weekly contacts by 30 to 40% while cutting out one full day of work that week. You want to do it proactively though, not retroactively. Go, okay, hey, I'm feeling a certain way. Based on that, what do I need to do? That way you're on purpose. Otherwise it just becomes a habit of not doing things, right? It was all about being on purpose. Now, if you go too long, it actually may involve taking off a chunk of days completely. And so you're going to use this as, judge that. That means even during peak selling season, right? Substituting or putting in an emergency break can benefit you. It gives your body a chance to recover and it gives you a mental break. So never underestimate your enthusiasm for your business as a key to getting you through your work and successfully to that finish line. Now, most of us have probably heard of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. I suffer from FOMO. It is a frequent, absolutely. It is a frequent cause of fatigue and burnout in our industry. As you become aware that you're capable of doing more than you know, especially as you start hitting goals, you're seeing success, you may continually add items to indulge your physiological, your spiritual, and your social desires. Now, while these desires are wonderful motivators, FOMO can leave you taking on additional events and activities without consideration of the benefit or adequate consideration of the psychological cost, right? I'll think about a pastor. Lots of pastors know that they're going to bring it on Sunday and they need to take Monday off because they've got to recharge their batteries. I knew when I was traveling and coaching Bold that if I didn't have a certain time off, I was going to hit a wall that there was no getting out of. Are you aware of what that is for you, and do you build that in, right? So if you find yourself, so how do you know if you have FOMO? If you didn't immediately realize that. If you find yourself unable to decline a request from clients or potential clients or team members or those in your office, you might have FOMO. If you're unable to resist signing up for every opportunity, for every class, for everything that everybody asks of you, you might have FOMO. If you've missed a holiday meal, if you've ducked out on a kid's important game to do real estate, you might have FOMO. So on your page, write down, beware of FOMO, right? Now, I also want you to understand that stress, when you stress yourself and your business and your systems, that is absolutely necessary for making it better. You've got to put, right, stress, it's kind of like working out. We put stress on our muscles in order for them to grow. And yet, to accurately say that it is stress and recovery from stress that makes you better. To reach your fullest potential, you may need to push yourself to the edge of overreaching, which is simply doing too much in the short term. Push yourself to the edge, and yet remember this is short term. An extended period of stress recovery imbalance may lead to burnout. Now, so I want to look at some of the signs of burnout, or so that you kind of go, I didn't even know that. Now, this may just be me, but for so long, I didn't understand, oh, that meant that, right? The first signs you may notice are persistent fatigue. You may want to sleep more than normal and at the same time have difficulties falling or staying asleep. So are you experiencing that? Gary Keller even shared with us that he's actually taking naps now. He's like, that's not his, and yet with everything going on and all the emotional and all this, you might plug in a nap to your day. Now, I'm not saying he says he takes one every day, and yet you might, 20-minute power nap might be what you need. Are you experiencing persistent fatigue? That's an example, right? One red flag, if you're ramping up your effort and your results are worse, right? That could be a sign of of burning out. Because this is the thing that we don't always realize. Symptoms can also be psychological. If you're experiencing more anxiety or depression than's typical for you, consider whether you need to change your routine. So if you're like finding yourself crying at a drop of a hat or being angry or whatever it is, it's not your normal or your traditional, not a fan of the word normal, but traditional, you might be approaching burnout. You might need to stop and reflect. If you're experiencing inappropriate fears or anxiety about your performance, that could be an example. If you find yourself in a spot, right, consider that you have a mismatch of stress and recovery, and you must fix the balance by both decreasing the stress and increasing recovery, right? So initially to recover, again, it's not about completely stopping. Instead, reduce your work. Go, okay, 30 to 40% of reduction. Let's keep the intensity and reduce the volume. That might be the first thing that you do. So let's say that, and I'll use lead generation as an example, and you're feeling like that, and normally you do 2 hours. Maybe you go, you know what? I'm going to do an hour, but I'm going to be freaking intense and on it and out, right? That might, well, if in 2 weeks you still aren't feeling better, then more rest is likely warranted, right? Continue to modify your workload as you did during the first 2 weeks. Again, it is about being intentional with this, being aware of what's going on. And then examine other aspects of your life. Diet and sleep, crucial for recovery. Many of us, however, skimp there. I'll speak for me. I know if I don't eat properly in the morning, between 2 and 4, I'm done, right? So whatever your nutrition, right? The nutrition that supports you, because depending on your exercise or lack of or whatever, you're going to have different things that support you. Emphasize whole foods over processed foods. And then hydrate well. Hydrate well. It'll make a difference. And then the last piece that I'm going to say on this is also troubled relationships. Other life-related stressors can hold you back. So no matter how difficult, address the big issues too. Okay? So I knew I threw a whole lot at you, and you may not have realized on a class about organization that that's what we would be talking about. And yet, we're going to kind of tie a bow on that and go to the next piece. And yet, can you imagine what that's creating for you? So Anya actually shared before COVID, FOMO was a problem because I'd be working 24/7. Now I actually get to take many weekends off, and I love it. Yes. Absolutely. FOMO can tell us that we're supposed to be everything and everybody for everyone. And think of a time where I've been like tired, laid on the couch. Oh, but everybody, the family's getting together. I have to go. Well, I don't have to do anything. I can choose to get to, or I can say, okay, what's the order of importance here? What can I do? Right? Okay. So I'd love to hear from a couple of other people. What did you write down? What's your aha? What are you looking at when you think about the burnt out process of the organization and how that impacts you?
What I can say is that I have been on burnout before, and with the beginning of COVID, we had a lot of meetings, Zoom meetings and things like that, and I wanted to participate. I had total FOMO, and I wanted to participate in every meeting, and I had to figure out that it was cutting into my productivity, and that I had to just pick the ones that were most important to me at the time, and just do those.
That's it. Thank you for sharing that, Andy, because that's a huge piece. So often, so if you're with Keller Williams, we have training all the time. And we tend to think, I've got to go to all of them. No, we have over 100,000 agents, 150,000 agents or something. So there's lots of training so that you can go, okay, this is the piece that I need. Okay, this is the piece that I need. This is the piece that I need, right? That's huge. What about my Facebookers? Anybody have any, which I think they kind of may have a delay, so they may not have heard the question yet. Anybody on Facebook, any comments about what we've looked at so far?
So Olivia, you said something about outside relationships. There's a movie called Act of Valor. It's a fictional movie following a SEAL team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the night before they ship out to Afghanistan or something, wherever they're going. And the chief, Lieutenant Sergeant, he goes, now listen, go home. If y'all have family issues, and make up for that now. Because when we go into battle, you have to be on your game or we'll all get killed.
Yeah. You know, I love that, because what if we did that every night when we went home after work and we said, let's make up with everybody, let's make it good, because tomorrow we're going into battle.
And the whole purpose is get your head straight, because when there's 6 or 7 of you and you're going into behind the enemy lines,
Mm-hmm.
if you're worried about finances, let us know. We'll do what we can to help you out. If you're worried about your marriage, go talk to her about it, get counseling. He went the whole list, but pretty solid.
Yeah, that's a huge, right? That's absolutely huge. Are we wrapping up the end of the day and going, okay, I'm done. Let me leave that there. Let me connect with my loved ones, right? There's actually, and I don't know that we'll get there today, but I will mention this. You know, at the beginning of the day, do you go back and like reconnect with what it is that you're doing? Most people go into the office or go wherever you work now, because many of us are working from home. You immediately go into you get, you know, let me do the phone calls, let me do this, let me do this. You haven't actually went, okay, what's important? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? So basically in the mornings, if you went in and reattached to your work, right? What about what am I doing is important for myself, for my family, for my community, right? What's the, you know, top 3 most important tasks that I'm going to complete today? I know that like I've got one particular coaching client. As we established her goal, one of the things that we did is every day she would just text and say, this is the number 1 most important thing that I've got to accomplish today. That helped her really focus on, right? And that's just, again, going down to reattaching yourself back to work and things that are important. So yeah, love that.
Olivia?
Yes.
You know, I think sometimes what we miss on too is that when we're really successful and we're goal oriented, the chaos in that when we try to pull everything back and, you know, maybe in the reorganization of who we personally are causes chaos within the systems that we've been used to. And maybe that's not a bad thing, but it allows us to set better systems. So maybe we're organized in the way that we were used to living our lives. But as we grow, we've got to shift that and find new systems that help us achieve.
Yeah. Well, and that's huge, because if you think about it, what got us to here isn't going to get us to there, right? That's good being the enemy of great. So the organization that got me to 10 deals or one kid, right? Because a lot of you are parents, right? Well, you think about what you did with the organization for one kid versus once you had 2 or 3, things had to change. So often we don't ever stop back and go, you know what, that was really effective then. I need to come up with something different now. And that becomes part of the challenge. So great. Yeah, Deb, that's an awesome point. Brenda shares, it's important to take time for yourself. I felt that if I don't take an opportunity, then I miss out and I have regrets. Yeah, that FOMO kicker butt. Heath, pay attention to the signs of your body. Mental health is important. You can't, like mental health, like we tend to think that we can compartmentalize. No, mental health, like that's number one. And then like Gary says, schedule your time off first. He's been saying that for years, and yet we don't do that. And he doesn't mean just for the entire year. He's talking about for the week. And so one of the things that he had shared with us, and I'll share with you, schedule you first, your personal self-care, then your family time, right? Maybe then you go to spouse or significant other, and then you go to kids. And you might go, well, wait a minute, why don't I get kids first? Because if you don't have it to give, you can't give it to your kids. So, right, you got to start with you first. Okay, awesome. Okay, now, so now that's kind of heavy. We're going to shift gears, and I'm going to share with you a really fun hack. Some of you guys know this, and some of you don't, and so it'll be really fun here. And what that hack actually is creating templates. We all, whether it's the same text 1,000 times, the same email 1,000 times, create templates for that. So I'm going to do my best right here to share my screen with you and give you an example of what I am referring to. Don't be looking at my notes when I start sharing my screen, okay? No, I'm just picking. Okay, so. All right, so what I'm talking about is creating, so every time you have an offer, do you have it a preset template? So you hit compose email, we come down here, and today is not about learning how to do this. On Olivia's approach, if you're not on that Facebook page, Olivia's approach, go to Facebook right now and type in Olivia's approach and ask to be involved in that page. Today at about 12:15, I've got it so that it will automatically pop up, and a step-by-step of this will show up. And yet, look at this. So I want to go to templates. I just had an offer. I'm going to come to templates. I'm going to click on offer, and guess what? Boom. I don't have to retype this every time. It's my template. I'm going to say, I'll change their name. I'll attach the offer and seller's estimate net sheet, and I'm going to fill in purchase price, earnest money, closing, buyer pre-approved, contingency, blah, blah, blah. Any items that stay with the house, any items not, right? You get that. You could create your own template. And then for the most important part, Mr. and Ms. Seller, based on the terms of the buyer's offer, you're going to receive an estimated net proceeds of, if applicable, subtract payoff balances, blah, blah. At this stage, you have 3 options: counter the buyer's offer, accept the buyer's offer, reject the buyer's offer. Now, the email itself isn't the important piece, right? And what I mean by that is you might look at this and go, I hate that email. Doesn't matter. You have emails that you use all the time. When you send a contract to the title attorney, are you having to retype it up every time, or do you have it in your system so that you just have it as a template? You pull it up, you change what needs to be changed, and you hit send. Okay. Now, before I go to the next hack, is anybody already using this? Does anybody go, that's the coolest thing in the world? Like, share with me what you're seeing with that hack. Donna, yeah, I retype mine each time. I didn't know that you could create templates. Absolutely. Absolutely. So from now on, every time you create an email and you go, okay, this is going to be an email that I'm going to use more than once because it's a client email, save it. Love that. Anybody else? Yeah, Anya, our admin has templates for weekly convo and intro emails. Absolutely. So you're a transaction coordinator, or you, because if you don't have a transaction coordinator, you have it. You're going to say the same thing every time to the title company. Do you have it written out? Do you have like that? Are you following that, right? Yeah, Brenda, absolutely. Work smarter, not harder. If you find yourself doing the same thing over and over, go, how do I create this as a system, right? Perfect. Now, there's one other piece I stopped sharing before I should have. I'm going to share my screen one more time. And I want to share, and you guys, right, I'd love to hear some of your tips and tricks here, but Google Drive. So one of the things, and if you're a client of mine, you're kind of getting some back end of the organization look right here. So when we're on a call and I say, I'm going to share that with you, it's because it's in my Google Drive and I've shared it probably 15 other times to 15 other clients or 100 times, right? And so I'm not having to go back and re-find it. I'm going to say it. Ramon's going to see it on the form, on the prep or the recap form, and he's going to send it, right? So again, I don't have, that's the cool part about what that can look like, right? So do you have certain things, whether it's stored in Google Drive or Dropbox, like that part's not important. The things that you're using over and over, do you have it? And is it set correctly in the folders? Now, one of the things that I will tell you, because again, I just do a lot of searching in Drive by the name. And yet Ramon, my virtual assistant, he's a cyberbacker. He actually came in here and started organizing things so that he has access to it as well. And it becomes really an easy place for us to look for things, right? Now, I'm also you guys are gonna see the back end here because another large challenge for organization is we don't have things that we're going to do written down. Your head, not a great place to to do it. So I'm going to suggest you do a couple of different things. Either walk around all the time with a pen and paper, or get really good at using the notes in your phone, or come up with your own system. But when you think, and this will actually help with your distractions too. So let's say you're lead generation and you have a thought that you need to do something. Write it down on your pen or paper, in your notes or something, so that you know and you're going to do it. And then you can get right back to the thing that you've already deemed important for the time being, right? So with my admin, one of the things with Ramon, this is one of the things that we do. So every week you see the to-do week of 7/26/20. So every week we start a new one. If there are things not done from the previous week, on Friday, hold on, let me recap that. So at the end of this week, one of the things that Ramon and I will do together is we'll look at everything that's not done and we'll say, do we need to go ahead and do it? Do we need to move it? And if so, where are we going to move it to? We kind of do this at the end of every day and then at the end of every week. Because what you may realize is if you're carrying it over week after week after week, it may not be important. Or at least not now, right? It may not be the thing that, and so you can file it away for later. So for instance, you guys, that are my coaching clients, right? I know, do we have our mid-year reviews? There are links to that. And this is where the cool part, I said your admin you can't rely on them solely to organize you, and yet they can become very helpful once you have it where, you know, what do I want this to look like? So with Ramon, you see he's got my key points. This is an example of my Monday. So these are my coaching clients. I click on that and it takes me to your prep form, to any homeworks. I'm looking at what we talked about last week so that I can hold you accountable to what you said you were going to do, right? You'll notice that as recaps are sent, we communicate. Green means done. Black means, so Anya, I'm not telling you business, but we know on Friday or I am telling you business, but we know on Friday that you're going to send me a picture of your 66 challenge photo. I know that Jonathan's doing that every day, right? So those are my notes. These are just things that we need to do. And then if you notice, red means they're in action. So at the end of that day, we looked at that and I said, okay, you know, my plan was to do that Wednesday afternoon. That's not going to work. Okay, that's a Thursday. That's a Thursday because I have a block of time for that on Thursday. Again, what it says doesn't matter, but do you have a central location that you keep everything that you must do? So then you can go through it and go, is this a success list versus a to-do list? Because Amanda, you mentioned that, like you've got things that are carrying over. Look at them. Are they part of your 80%? Maybe they don't need to be there. And then, of course, these are the things on Thursday. And then this is also how I communicate with Ramon since he's not in my office, right? So again, do you have some central location? What works for you? This is just one of those things that works for me to keep us organized. All right. So I want to hear back from you guys. What's a takeaway from that? What is maybe even something that you do differently that works for you when we look at organization? Amanda, I think you're trying to share, but you're muted, or she may be on another call. She's ignoring us. So do you have a central location that you're writing down all of the things that need to be done and then deciding when to do them, making it a success list?
Imagine how organized everybody would be if it was out of our head and down on paper.
Yes. That's huge. That's because think of our head like a computer. You know, when you get so much stuff on your computer, your desktop, and it starts slowing down, that's what happens with us as well. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I do keep a Post-it note, one of the Post-it notes from it's actually on the computer. It's within the systems. And I keep all my current customers, whether they're buyers or sellers, at the top. And then down below, I put all my potential buyers and sellers. And I just try to stay in touch with them on a daily basis and tick them off when they're, you know, I either check them off or cross them off depending on what the situation is, and move them into, actually I put them in command after that when something is going on. So it's not, I know it's not the best organization, but it's kind of what I've done for years. Before the Post-it note on the computer, I actually used real Post-it notes.
Well, and so that actually, thank you for sharing that, because that's actually something that that's exactly the next place that we're going with this. Now, what I'm going to share right now is going to be, for some of you guys, the most fun thing to get organized. And for some of you, it is going to be like stabbing yourself in the eyeball, right? And yet what you're going to realize is as you get this done, how much of a difference it's going to make to your world. Now, this is actually from, so I told you I was going to give you some resources. There's a book called Getting Things Done by David Allen. And I've already introduced you guys to The Organized Executive. Both of these are also on Audible, so if you're a listener. And yet, so the first thing that we have to do to get organized is we've got to actually capture all of your incoming paper. Now, when I say incoming paper, that means anything and everything. So incoming email, incoming paper, things that you need to do, all of that stuff, you've got to capture it in one spot. Now, you saw that I captured in one spot on Google Drive. That might not work for you. I'm going to share with you a way to do it like some of you may think old school. I think effective. And then some of you might want to do it on the computer. There's no right or wrong. And you might start one way or have a piece that's online and a piece that's in front of us. But we want to capture all of our incoming paper into one tray. There's actually a quote by David Allen that says, the way to get anything under control, whether it's your kitchen, your company, or your consciousness, it is to capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and then engage with it. So how do we do that? Why we need to capture all of our incoming things into one tray? Think of this. If your reality looks like this, piles of paper, files, notes, stickies, reminders lying around, waiting to be handled as soon as you can get around to it, not being able to find the notes from the phone call that you had last week that includes the information for today's meeting. If you feel overwhelmed and and you feel like things are out of control and there's no clear way to get back in control without spending hours or even days trying to get organized, right? If this is you, then this is the first step that's going to move you forward to that organized space, okay? So just write some notes down. You're going to take a couple of minutes and you're going to do a quick assessment of all the paper and other physical stuff, right, in your life. So, matter of fact, let's do this together. So I want you to write down the number of locations. How many numbers of locations do you have of piles of paper? Write that down. How many locations do you have of sticky notes? How many locations of reminders? How many locations of task lists? Like we got a task list on my phone, I got one in my notebook, I got one in my kitchen, right? What about miscellaneous things in or around your area that are not where or how they should be? And then in today's day and age, I'll add one that's not in here. And how many things do you have that need to go back to Amazon? Or wherever, right, you need to return them? I know TJ's looking at me, right? TJ, I had to take this one on. Now I don't have anything because now I have a system to get my stuff back to Amazon. Right? I can't tell you how many things I just paid for. Didn't ever use them. I couldn't figure out how to get them back, right? Because they weren't where they, it was just a whole mess, right? So that's your reality check. So now what do we do with that? So number one, you want to identify or buy 2 trays, right? Now these are just, doesn't matter what they look like. They could be the black trays from Office Depot. It could be your Google Drive folder and a sheet of paper, right? And what you want to do is you want to have one that's for work and one that's at home, okay? Because think about at home, what happens is we walk in our house and everything goes by the door. And then the next time we go into the house, everything goes by the door. And then after a while, you're just like, I want to just move. Like, I don't want to deal with all the stuff that's by the door, right? Well, it's the same thing with all of our paper and everything else. So, these in trays are think of these as corrals, where all of your incoming stuff is going to reside temporarily. Now, your in trays will hold these items until you're ready for the next steps, okay? Now, so number one, everybody today, you need to get 2 trays. Now, again, it doesn't matter if it's electronic or if it's on paper. That's where we're going to start. You're going to gather all of your loose papers, your notes, your reminders. Let's say you got a copier that's in your office and it doesn't work and you need it. Well, that might not fit in the box, and yet you could write on a sheet of paper, fix my copier, and put it in your inbox, right? Everything starts in your inbox, okay? Items for work in the work one, personal in the personal, right? This is going to give you an immediate sense of stepping in the right direction. Okay, now all those things are in the inbox. What's the next step? And then so now we start working on getting rid of those tools. Okay, now what that's going to look like is you're going to actually create a system or a plan. We don't have to do it all right now. We want to get everything in there, and then we're going to start working our way through it. And yet every single day from now on, like maybe it's the beginning of your day, you're going to go through all of your notes, you're going to go through everything, and you're going to put it in your inbox. Maybe if it's on the Google Drive, or every time you have a thought, like wherever you're capturing your information, right, you're going to create, that's my inbox, because that's how I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with it. Part of it is we've got to get really good at making decisions. So in the one thing, Gary talks about, do it, dump it, delegate it, or delay it. We want to get to where we're only touching our emails, we're only touching, or the majority of our emails or our paper or stuff once. When something, right, you've got a set time in your schedule to go through your inbox. And you're going to say, am I going to do it? Nope. Am I going to dump it? Yep. And you get rid of it. Am I going to delegate it? Yes, this is going to go to my admin, or I'm going to delay it, right? And then when you delay it, though, you have to have basically delay it probably means file it or put it by when you want to do it, right? And then you've got that piece. Now, when we're getting our tray to empty, you have everything in one place. When you do this, you're going to be more on top of your work with less stress and more productivity. You're going to know that nothing important is missed. When we keep it in our head, that drives us crazy and slows us down. Your stress will be lower, and you will feel more in control, and which actually, because you will be more in control of your work in your life. So this is a crucial step, okay? Now, if as we look at your tray being full, a lot of times it is going to be piled high with stuff that needs your attention. It's neither bad or wrong, and yet it gets in the way of that stress-free productivity if it stays there too long. So an in tray can get full and remain that way for 3 reasons. You have lots of incoming, and you know that this is the place that will corral it. Good for you. Number 2, you have no system to empty that box, right? So if you don't have a system for storing and keeping track of important items, then your inbox becomes a holding tray. That's ineffective. It goes in the inbox, and then it goes to where it's supposed to do it, dump it, delegate it, delay it. Or you don't trust your system. So if you have your list and files set up, but you're not using them, it may be because you don't trust that system. Once you start using them consistently, it will get better. Now, so you're going to decide, right? And one of the things, Amanda, we talked about earlier, you talked about the list of items. Well, think of that, that's in your inbox tray. And you say, okay, we're going to utilize the 2-minute rule. So what the 2-minute rule is, okay, I need to go through and clarify all of these items. And this is where you're going to implement the 2-minute rule. This is a method for quickly moving through items and then reducing the items there. So what is the 2-minute rule? If the next action can be done in 2 minutes or less, do it now. So when you're going through your inbox, that's going to take longer than 2 minutes. We're not doing it. 2 minutes, you're going to do it. And why do we say 2 minutes? 2 minutes or more or less the point where it starts to take longer to store and track a next action than to deal with the first time you have it in your hands, right? Or see it in your email box. It's the efficiency cutoff. So we all want to live by that 2-minute rule. Now, to live by that 2-minute rule, make sure you've got a timer on your phone for 2 minutes. So when you're going through that inbox, hit it. Or maybe you have an egg timer. And you might think, Olivia, that's overdoing it. No, right? It's a new skill. When we learn new skills, we have to put in, think about when, recently I went and played, I went bowling with my nephews and my niece, and they weigh probably 45 pounds, and they're 5 and 6. And when they bowl, they get those rails up. That 2-minute rule is our rail up, right? We need that when we're first doing this. Think about responding to email. When you go through your email inbox, you want to use the 2-minute rule. If it only takes 1 or 2 minutes, answer it. If you find that you end up spending more time in your inbox than you'd planned, given your other commitments, simply just delay processing your inbox until a later time. So one of the things that I would ask is, do you have a set time of day that you're checking your email? Check it twice a day. Use the 2-minute rule, right? I'm going to do it. I'm going to delay it. I'm going to dump it, or I'm going to delegate it. The same can be said to responding to voicemail. Okay. Now, what if it's going to take more than 2 minutes? What do we do? Or what if you have a 200 2-minute actions in your inbox, right? That's some of us. Once you get through your first inbox, from now on, you won't have that, because that's going to be like, you're going to have it in your schedule, and every day it starts with what's in my inbox. I'm going to do it, delay it, delegate it, or dump it. Until you work through your inbox, you're going to go ahead and say 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, I'm going to work through that inbox. Or you might choose, and you might go, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this on Saturday and just get done with it, right? Or I'm going to do with it one evening and get done with it, and then start utilizing that. But if you don't have a whole, 3-4 hours to go through it, just say, okay, right now, every day I'm going to do 30 minutes in it, 30 minutes, and then you're going to eventually get down where that's very, very quick, okay? So to clarify, and this is a quote from David Allen, getting your inbox to empty doesn't actually mean doing all those things. It just means identifying each item and deciding what it is and where it goes, okay? So that's going to be your first action item, right? Is getting those inboxes and then getting them cleaned out and having a system to do that. The other piece, if you're taking notes for today's call, make sure that you have a capture tool. So during the day, is it a notebook and a pen that you're writing with? Is it a form in Google Drive? Because I can add that, right? I can have Google Drive on my phone and add those notes right there. So I've got one inbox to it. One hack that we used to use, especially for you, if you're out in the field a lot, if you take notes, I mean, we've all been there. You go to a restaurant, you bump into somebody, and you take notes on a napkin. Take a picture of that napkin and email it to yourself. Now it's in your inbox. Now you've got a trigger for when you get there to actually do it, and you're not having to try to keep this note with you. As you have an admin, send it to your email, and your admins check your email, and they're taking care of those things, or they're putting it on your list to say, how can I do this for you, right? Okay. So that's going to be that's the next piece, is creating your inbox. So this is kind of where we're going to wrap up today's call. And yet I want to hear back from you. What have you learned today that you can immediately put into place What did you write down at the beginning of the call that maybe we didn't answer? Ask that question now, and let's go ahead and handle that piece, right? So who's going to go first? Whether you're putting it in the chat box or you're commenting, or you can unmute yourself. Hey, Stacy Wright, yes, make it a success list. I just want to make sure I'm not all alone.
Hey, Coach. I think I can share. As your admin, being on this call as well, one thing that, I like the most that has been discussed is, the 2-minute rule, because on a daily basis, there will for sure be new tasks
Oh, I just lost you, Ramon.
that, I will be getting, okay? Which one I can, complete within the next 2 minutes, so that, I can just get rid of it. I can just color it green. So, that's what I do. And reason on why I'm doing that is because I don't want our task, to-do list to pile up. So, in a sense, I can just shorten those tasks by, completing them and telling you that, hey, it's already complete, right? So that other tasks can be focused on. So that's what I do, the 2-minute rule. And that's one of those best things that you taught me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. Well, and the cool part too is, and this is the other cool part. Let's say you have a bunch of 2 minutes. Are you grouping your tasks together, right? This is for everybody. So a lot of times we talk with the Classic Bowl, we used to talk being the star realtor. Okay, I'd run over here and show this house, and then I'd run over here and go to the bank, and then I'd run over here, and then I'd run over there, and then I'd run over there, and right? And we do the same thing where I take this call, and then I send an email, and then I check my laundry, and then group your tasks that you're going to do together, right? So, okay, these are all the 2-minute things that I need to do today, or go through and go 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, I'm going to do so group tasks together. The ones that make sense, group those together. So that's perfect. And I will say, like, it's been a game changer. I had a cyberbacker in the past. It was great. My job's changed, so I didn't need that anymore. And then, and now Ramon is my cyberbacker. Huge game changer. Because he empowers me to do so much more things, and yet again, let's say I didn't have my system or I didn't know what to expect. I could actually just set myself up for bigger failures, because I've got to be able to say, these are the things that need to be done. This is the order of importance. By when will you have that back to me? So yeah. All right, who else? What else did you guys get from today? Or maybe it's something that you're going to implement. Who'll share? Anya made a post. She says, I need to make sure I get rid of my piles of paper. Yeah. And again, do it, dump it, delegate it. One of the greatest things with those piles of paper, for some of us, we get really anxious about getting rid of stuff. Something that you might choose to do, because like we'll come across a magazine. I want to read that article. It's been sitting on my desk for 6 months. Probably I'm not going to read it, but my head won't let it go. So you might actually have a box under your desk that everything that you're like, it doesn't really have a place, I want to do it, but I don't know, and just dump it into that box. At the end of every 3 months or 6 months, take that box and dump it. If you haven't went through it or found it, you don't need it, dump it, get rid of it. So that's one thing that you could do. Donna, yeah, getting every template into Google Drive, creating the templates in my email. Absolutely. And the cool part is you don't have to like go on a journey to go, okay, I'm going to create it. When you type it, you go, okay, this is something I'm going to resend because it's an offer. It's a this, it's that. Let me say that. That'll be my new template. Yeah. Love that. Okay. And is there anything that you came on the call today and you're like, I want this addressed, or how do I do this? Or where can I, utilize this piece in my business? Okay, then I'm going to share this last one, and this is where we'll actually wrap today's call. Is do not disturb. I know that I've shared this, and yet I don't know. Every now and then I share this, and people go, I didn't know. When you get ready to do your most important activity, and for most of us, if we're realtors, we're going to say that's lead generation, right? Lead generation, lead follow-up. When you get to, when you start doing that, if you take, now I don't know if it works with, on iPhones, it works like this. You go into your settings and you turn do not disturb on. You can make outbound calls, and yet everybody will go to voicemail. Your text will be there, only it won't come through while you're making your calls. When you finish your hour of lead generation or your 3 hours of lead generation, depending on where that is, right? You go back into your phone, you take it off of do not disturb, you see all of your text messages, and you respond or put them on your list or whatever you need to do with it, right? And then you listen to your voicemails. That takes and gets rid of the distractions. That right there is a game changer. So I'm definitely going to highly share that, that tip, life hack, whatever you want to call it. Now, the last piece that I'll say is not only do you want to have it during lead generation, choose at least one other time of day that you do that so that you get an uninterrupted moment of whatever it is that you want to do, like where you're on purpose about it. So like, I need to finish this paperwork, or I need to handle this. Go, okay, this is the time of day that I'm going to turn my phone on to do not disturb. I'm going to handle this so that I can think clearly about this thing without the interruptions. And then you work the same process over. All right. Okay, so I'd love to get 3 ahas, and then I'm going to give you back the gift of time, right? Because you had 10 to 12 or 2 hours set aside for today, and I'm going to get you out with so you have an extra half hour to maybe you implement the start of your inbox that we talked about today. And that, which would be amazing, right? Because now you're taking that step for the organization. But let me get 3 ahas before we wrap. So if you post it in the chat, I'll read it out to everybody. Otherwise, if you'll unmute yourself and share, that would be amazing. Who will go first?
I liked the success list. I'm on Tracy Terrell's team, and so she's always had this list where she puts her, the things that need to get done, and if they don't get done today, she puts them on the list for tomorrow. And so she moves them forward to make sure that they end up getting done. So it's kind of similar to what you had with, the color scheme with the green and red. So I bought my notebook yesterday because I want to implement that and, start getting just purposeful with the things that I'm doing and the things that I need to get done. And if they don't get done today, if they don't get done today, then, moving them to a time where they need to get done or will get that done.
That's right. Yeah. And I love that. And the cool part is being on purpose with it. So like, I said I was going to do this today. It's the end of the day. And I go, it didn't, or at some point during the day, I go, it didn't have to be done today. It just got stuck in that spot. Mm-hmm. Where does it actually make sense for me to do that? Where can I group that type of thing? Right. Sometimes some of the, like, especially when I was doing Classic Bold, you take a whole day out of your day, like 8:30 to 3:30, and you're in a training, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that I would highly encourage agents after that training was over is keep a day, 8:30 to 3:30, where you treat it like you were in that bold day, that bold class. Only that's when you're going to work on your business instead of in it. So just now, and if you think about the way the bold day is structured, so you go, at 8:30, I'm going to be ready to go, and I'm going to be doing these items. I'm going to take a 15-minute break, return phone calls, etc. Now I'm back in. Now I'm going to take a lunch, 30-minute lunch, and I'm going to do, return calls, answer emails. And then at 3:30, I think typically we do lead generation right in the afternoons, and you go, okay, I'm going to take a 30-minute block, and I'm going to talk to as many people as I can. And then I'm going to finish the action items, and I'm wrapped up by 3:30 to get back on, in my business if necessary, or go home or whatever. That's another way to organize yourself as well, and treat it like, well, I wouldn't skip my bold class for a showing. I would move it around. I would do, etc. Treat it the same way and have that one day a week where you're working on your business instead of in it. So thank you so much for sharing it, and thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who else? We need to get 2 more ahas so that we can wrap up and you guys can have 30 minutes to actually implement some of the action items that we've talked about today. Don't worry, I'll wait. Yes, Ramon, yes, please share yours.
Yeah, there's one thing that I, learned from you. I think it was last week. It's about the template that, we get to create in Gmail. I've been using, Yahoo Mail or, Gmail. I got, 2 accounts for how many years now? But I didn't know that, you can easily create that template with, a long, content in it, right? Whenever I create an email, I tend to, just write everything down, send it, and then if there will be a need for me again to create the same email, I'll do the same thing, which will take, how many minutes, right? 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but not knowing that there's that option, which you taught me, that made my life really easy, right? Because, every day there's for sure an email that I need to send, right? But creating that template, that's, really something, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's been a game changer because it's simple, and we don't have to think about it. We're just filling it in and going. So love that. All right, let's take one more and we'll wrap up. Don't be shy. Unmute or place it in the chat. What's something that your takeaway from today, your aha? Okay, Daisy, thank you so much for sharing. So Daisy, yes, she says you can also create shortcuts when sending text messages or using your phone. Yes, are you creating those shortcuts when on your text messages? And the cool part, if you're not sure how to do that, Google it. Google's amazing, right? All right, so so that's where we're gonna wrap today. I so appreciate you guys for being on. I trust that you got some things that you can actually implement. We are going to give you back 30 minutes so that you can go ahead and implement pick at least one item that we talked about today and implement it, and preferably it would be that inbox piece, right? And yet let's take care of that. Keep in mind that this is when we learn a skill, it's an ongoing process. I'm actually in the process. I'm going to, if we have enough people that are interested, I'm going to create a course that people can come into. And that way, like every week, we're learning a new piece, we're implementing, we're saying, okay, so that it's top of the mind. And then when we finish that course, again, you go from where you are, your productivity, to the next level. You are going to be amazed by how much you can do in less time just by just by being organized, just by taking care of yourself mentally, just by some of those things that we talked about today. And there's a lot more than that. And then Deb, thank you so much for your comment. Yeah, getting organized eliminates chaos. Yes. It at least eliminates the chaos from our a great degree of it, and it allows us to ebb and flow better. So, all right, perfect. You guys have an amazing, amazing Thursday. I will talk to you later. Have a great one. Bye. I don't know how to end. And we're out. Have a great one.